episode 163. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. I just woke up from a nap. Took ate dinner real quick, took a half-hour nap, ready to record. So I won't be cranky. So that's a plus. And
I took a nap today, too, between 1 and 2 o'clock today.
Oh, look at you, living that, in-between job life. Or not quite in-between. You have a job, but it's quiet.
I get a remote laptop. I can do the, I'm going to work from home today and wait for emails to respond to play video games if I want to.
Oh, yeah, that's always fun. But I don't know if you had, I had the problem my first time doing remote stuff of just okay, I'm going to sit in front of this computer and be ready for it. And then you realize, oh, this is silly.
Most of my stuff is, training and then also, doing, I'm starting the hiring process now.
Yeah.
So it's more calling applicants. And they're sending me a corporate phone, so I don't have to call people from my own personal phone. So.
Oh, great. You'll be like me where nice. You have two phones and then you forget which phone is, the one you contact your family.
I think the one I'm getting is an iPhone. And then the one that the phone, my personal phone, is an Android phone, so that should be at least a little bit of an easier indicator for me.
Yeah, you'll know. This UI means my family isn't going to talk to me.
All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts on Thursdays on podcast services, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. If you can leave us a review on those services, that's helpful. Downloading the show is great. Reviewing, sharing the show out there is always helpful. If you're able to review and you can write anything, that's great. You can also stop by the Twitch stream, so twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, where we stream typically Tuesday night or Wednesday night, as well as try to stream some games periodically on there. But so we are recording on a Wednesday night tonight, so you can subscribe to us on Twitch as well if you're here. You can link your Amazon account and your Twitch account and get Prime Gaming, and Prime Gaming gives you a free Twitch sub to the streamer of your choice. Please make sure that you use that on somebody. If it's not DDG, that's okay. If you have another streamer that you enjoy watching and want to show support that way. But if you're not using it, please consider using it on us. Don't let Amazon keep the money. There's no point. It's kind of one of those things that you get for free as a consumer. So I would hope that everybody uses that. So those of you that have are super appreciated as well. So with that, there are a bunch of other show notes. In the show notes, there are links to everything else. Patreon's in there, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, PayPal, Teesprings. All those links are there, so that you can join the community, hang out with us as we get hopefully closer and closer and closer to Discord kind of taking over all of the gaming communication world. I really hope that happens in March. I would love to have a good one-stop shop for everybody to kind of hang out, chat, share some links, as well as play some games together. So please consider joining the communities that are linked in the notes. And we're going to jump over to the news.
Yeah, news. We have a fair amount of news this week. I actually had to cut some stories just because there's a lot of little things going on, some big things. But the first one, I guess we'll just do check-ins every now and then with the Last of Us TV show. But it was renewed on Friday for season 2. So ahead of episode 3, HBO just greenlit The Last of Us, and they bragged about how the thing we talked about last week, where episode 1 to episode 2 had a 22% increase, and now we found out episode 3 had an additional 12% increase over that overall audience. And I believe they said something about 22 million people have watched the first episode so far. So it's doing so well that they renewed it pretty quick. And then in addition, the co-creator of the show, Craig Mazin, basically said season 2 would cover part of the second game because the second game is such a huge thing to cover. Now something that we've been kind of trying to figure out how they're going to do it, especially because they've been pretty adamant of we will be covering the second game in season 2, but now sounds like that it might take a couple seasons potentially, probably 2-3 seasons for them to do that. But Dave, I mean, this has to make you a little bit more into watching the show, knowing it's not going to get cut off, early.
Yeah, I mean, even if this is only a one and done season, which I never expected it to be, I wasn't. I didn't have any intentions of not watching it because it is. And somebody else said this on social media, the fact that these numbers exist when it went toe to toe with playoff football, is also very, very good. I mean, we all know NFL is a ratings hog. Whether and it does tremendous numbers, and so for these numbers to be like that, and I also think I saw what we had talked about before, where I think episode 1 is on YouTube now. With or it was somewhere, it was available, like you didn't have to have an HBO subscription to see episode 1 to then see, obviously, if you want to subscribe to HBO. And I think I saw something on my PlayStation of 40% off advertisement. I didn't, every time I clicked on it, it just kind of like took me to it because I already had it.
Yeah, they're doing like a huge discount for PlayStation players to get HBO Max.
So that's all cool. And then I don't know what her first name is. The Ellie character's last name is Ramsey. Bella Ramsey. She has confirmed on social media that she is part of season 2, which to our point, like we talked about, of the age, the time jump that happens between Last of Us Part 1 and Last of Us Part 2 was always a kind of intriguing thing. But with the TV world, like, they could just take the events that happened in Part 2 and move them up 1 or 2 years for the TV show. I think.
And also, she's apparently 19, which is hilarious. Really? She's 19. Yeah.
So maybe they can just make her look older with makeup and stuff.
Or because she's at that age to where she might look significantly older in a year, because that's how life
have they?
Works.
Somebody asked me this at work the other day. Like, have they said how old she, or have they 14. Said her age? 14. Yeah. Okay, because I thought in the game she was 13. Like,
she might have been.
Regardless, it doesn't really. Yeah, so that's surprisingly close. So, but yeah, cool. Like, I think it's great. So.
Yeah, no, I was super excited to see this news. I mean, I knew it was coming after episodes 2, big increase in viewership, and I'm gonna be curious because correct me if I'm wrong. There's no football this weekend, so I'm expecting.
Correct. Well, there's flag football all-star game.
Yeah, so there's no football this weekend, so I'm gonna be curious to see if the numbers. Yeah. Because they technically can still go up, but it's very unlikely. I mean, we saw a 22% increase and then 12% on top of that, to where it's
I would have to look at the release schedule. Are they going to go against the Super Bowl?
They usually don't give a shit. HBO will go against it. Back in the day, before Game of Thrones, HBO would take holidays off and the Super Bowl off.
Well, because I know the Super Bowl kicks off at 6:45 or something like that, and it will not be over by 9:00 Eastern time. It won't.
No, it would be just ending.
No, that game won't end until 10 or 10:30. But I think the Last of Us episode will end before the Super Bowl ends.
Yeah, and that would probably be the.
That's a true tell. Let's see what your numbers are that day.
Which, even if they're the first episode numbers, would be a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's good that they're renewing now, as opposed to waiting till that Sunday to be people just don't like this show, because that's how terrible TV executives.
The marketing, I think the marketing's been great. Again, I've seen it advertised on SportsCenter when I watch SportsCenter. I've seen
I've seen some billboards for it too.
Yeah,
it's getting out there.
This is a huge win for HBO as well, because we've been talking about HBO needed some reasons to have the service, and as of right now, this show is carrying the weight to have the service. I think this would be a great time for HBO in the next month to announce something else, coming, not even gaming related, but your next show
they usually
that's maybe going to be on in April, May. Something to keep your user base inclined, and it's awesome. I think it's fantastic. So I love that it's being successful. I loved it. I've seen episode 3. I love the direction they chose with episode 3 of what fleshing out more information and stuff. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, episode 3 was a masterclass. Could have been its own standalone thing, and the fact that they fit that into The Last of Us was just really well done. And I just it got me really excited of oh shit, they could do this for so many side characters if they want.
Yeah.
And it won't.
And they dodged the video game stuff that we were worried about, how they were gonna, again, without being spoiler, but how were they gonna handle a specific encounter? And they just wrote around it, and they wrote around it flawlessly.
Yeah, they're taking the right things from the game and fleshing them out, and ignoring the things that are video gamey. Let's just ignore the video game stuff.
Yeah, ultimately I don't know the exact time frame, but we're 3 hours in on watching this. If you watched all 3 episodes concurrently, I figured you'd probably be a little bit over 3 hours, maybe 3.5.
Yeah.
And I think you're about the roughly, I would probably say, the 6 or 7 hour mark in the game, 5 or 6 hour mark in the game, if I had to guess.
Remember I was talking about I can't wait for them to get to the school. School's over with. That's done. They've already passed that point. So they're cutting the right thing. So yeah, if you include gameplay, they're at 1/3 of the way through the game. And so, I think they found a good pace, and also they found a good way to like. I've been worried about like, hey, Pedro Pascal's busy, but he didn't have to do much work this episode, and that's something that they could take advantage of like, hey, there's really interesting side characters, or if we just want to go off in a different direction for an episode, they can and not have to worry about Pedro Pascal's. Yeah.
Hey, schedule. we're gonna do your part for episode 3 at the end of episode 2, and then you can go away for like 2 weeks. Go do what you got to do. Like we don't. We'll be okay.
Or we'll just bank everything to the end of the season, so you can leave halfway through production and do Mandalorian and whatever else you have to do. And that's a good way to go. But very excited that season 2 has been announced. The producers of Twisted Metal would like to remind everyone that Twisted Metal is coming out this year. I saw that news going around, and I'm just like, man, are they
like, the bar has been like, what's the last, off the top of your head, like what's the last video game show TV show that we got?
Has there been? It's mostly just been straight to movies.
Okay, so in terms of like setting the bar for a television show, people got some work to do.
Twisted Metal is going to have to be wacky as hell. Like if Twisted Metal at any point is like, hey, we're going to be serious, they've lost any chance they've had. Like they have to go complete opposite direction of The Last of Us.
And they had a pretty good character for episode 3 that I was like, oh, I know who that is. And the way that they essentially handled that in terms of what they did with that character from a beginning of the episode to the end of the episode was great.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And it also led to confusion of people that played The Last of Us but didn't pay attention to The Last of Us, which was kind of entertaining to watch because
well, that's the part that I'm loving the most so far, is they're fleshing out stuff that you would probably have picked up and read off a letter.
No, this is exactly what they did for this episode in particular, and it caught some people off guard because they just didn't catch that letter, or they didn't pay enough attention to the dialogue to like read between the lines. So it's been interesting to see people's reaction to episode 3 that played the game and were just like, I don't know why they went this direction. It's like they went the same direction, they just fleshed it out significantly more. But all right, this next story, I put this in here. Sarah really wanted me to talk about it, but also I think I can tie this in to some Destiny stuff, just because Destiny has been having to go through some of this cheat stuff.
Yeah, and I play it. You'll eventually hear his voice, maybe before this episode or after this episode. But Wyatt, who's a community member for us, and you probably heard his voice on PS Nation in the past. He has been watching this, and I don't think he's mentioned this to me. So all right, Final Fantasy 14. Basically, since the last patch, which was like a week or 2 ago, they have like super difficult content that is always been like a race to see which team can clear the raid. And one of the most popular raid teams, it was discovered that they cheated to obtain a clear of that raid. And basically, the director of Final Fantasy 14 kind of came out and said he was very disappointed. Basically, just shot down any use of third-party applications and mods in the MMO, and said like it's disappointing that people use mods and stuff like that and are doing outside things to obtain clears. And then Final Fantasy went ahead and just wiped that team's records from like the logs and databases, because like it's a big deal when the team cleared content to where like they got a shout out on the website, on Twitter, people would eat up the videos, and it was discovered that they were using third-party software. And the reason this was all found out is someone leaked a video, because the way this team would clear stuff is they would like alter the camera to see what's coming next. And they also had multiple people that were watching them play through these means and calling out shots. So like it is a massive undertaking for them to get this world record. And it found out they were cheating, and Final Fantasy kind of just put down the banhammer and said like, hey, we're wiping their records, and there are going to be like temporary to permanent bans, but they aren't going to share whether they do it temporary or permanently. You're just going to have to find out when those content creators don't post content anymore. But yeah, this is basically like divided the Final Fantasy community to where you have people that
are basically like PC players always look down on console players, but turns out console players are the ones that have to do everything without mods and third-party apps. And then you also have like another element where people are blaming the World and Warcraft refugees for causing this, because this wasn't an issue before World of Warcraft had a mass exodus over to Final Fantasy. But Dave, as someone who like is constantly hearing about like Bungie having to drop the ban hammer for like third-party apps and stuff, and like I believe Bungie's had to do stuff similar to this, maybe not as extreme. How do you think Square Enix handled this?
I think, I mean, if you blatantly find a cheater, I don't know enough in terms of what like world's first rules that they put out, Final Fantasy teams put out for what can or can't be done. Again, the only background I have on this is reading a bunch of stuff of like, watching the world first raids for Destiny, and they come out and say like, sometimes they'll say, hey, we're aware that this is a thing, and if you're caught doing this, you'll be disqualified from the race. They kind of say, they preemptively say that. They have in like the last couple of raids past, when something is kind of either broken or not necessarily performing the way that Bungie wants it to perform, they deactivate it. Like exotic armor, exotic weapons, they'll just turn it off. They've even gone to the extent of where they'll turn it off in raid content, where the player, like, they'd be like, okay, like, we don't really care if you use this in like open world PvE stuff like patrols, but if you're gonna go into a raid, like, you don't get to do it. They've done that. They do like an artificial leveling cap system for the first 24 hours of the raid to make it to try to make it as level of a playing field as possible. But you do run into stuff, and without knowing enough background of what happened here, I'm like altering the camera angle. I'm not aware if that's something you can do in Destiny. I don't know enough about Final Fantasy to see the benefit of altering the camera angle.
You can see the next moves coming, basically how the game's loading stuff in.
Oh, okay.
So they put it so far back that they could pretty much see like the next couple minutes of stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like that was like the little bit that I've heard from Wyatt is like, oh, this next team just advanced like 60 seconds farther than everybody else has. I'm like, 60 seconds?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It takes like weeks and like sometimes months to get clears, or it used to. And then the last couple times they've added content like this, the clears have been coming faster and faster, and it turns out it is through third party.
I mean, like there is a lot of the privileged players, like the old school hardcore players that have been playing, the veteran players that have been playing the game, and they don't like these new kids getting on their lawn. Like that can happen too, but if they're cheating, then that's just messed up in general. But like I've seen stuff like macros, especially with Destiny being put on PC, I've seen even more stuff where like when there was like there's a difference between cheating and exploiting. I truly believe there's a difference between cheating and exploiting. When there's a problem in the game that the developer messed up, or the developer didn't realize what happened, like switching weapons in a certain order, or doing something with this weapon causes, like when you switch to this weapon, like that part I think is a delicate balance of like you found an easier way to do it, but like programming macros or stuff like, I think that gets a little excessive, like kind of takes out the heart of competition a little bit, similar to like what I've talked about, like players taking steroids or getting a slight advantage that not everybody has or not everybody knows about, like that can be a little funky. So them doing this, like I think it's completely justified that they can do that. Shame on Final Fantasy at the same time from a developer standpoint for allowing your camera to come that far out. Like,
no, it's not allowed. It's they use mods and third party to like break the camera and pull it like as far out as they did. So they basically broke and altered the game on PC in order to get
this. Is why a lot of developers don't like to give you access to their APIs though, for when something like this happens.
And that also led to a thing where people in Final Fantasy, they use a system called parsing, where basically you clear a dungeon, and then through the API, people are able to like determine like statistically like how good of a player you were for that dungeon, and that's also led to a lot of gatekeeping where you try and join like a party.
You gotta have a parse score so high.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a thing that like Final Fantasy has been like very much like, please stop doing this. We understand the value in this, but stop using it to gatekeep, and also please don't force us to shut these holes.
Right.
And basically now that's where we're in, because a lot of people use mods and
This
stuff for cosmetic
this
purposes.
is the kind of this is the kind of stuff that makes games end up being bland in favor of balance. You know, air quoting with balance. Like you've seen this, Michael, in Overwatch, where they completely just deactivate a character because it's overbalanced or it's too abused. And you know, there's enough people that are complaining about it, and then you end up in the long run, you end up with a very bland and very generic game. Because they don't like the accessibility in gaming is such a big deal right now. Like trying to have an even playing field, and I've talked about this for, you know, with Destiny, is that somebody could join and play Destiny for 6, 8, 9 hours with me. They will have a great time. They will play. They will be able to clear content with me. I will not feel like I have to carry them in Destiny 2 like I used to have to do things in Destiny 1. Like you can be a viable player, but you can also make the game as deep as you want. You know, like you can go super deep into the game where you can min-max every little aspect that you want in this game: statistics, points, how you do things, when you throw your grenade, what element you use, what weapon you use, what perk you activate when. Like you can go super, super deep if you want to. And I'm sure that Final Fantasy is just like that times a bazillion.
Yeah.
But I don't like when I've talked about it before. Like I tried to play Final Fantasy stuff before. Like onboarding is just so scary. These companies are trying to find any way to make their games more accessible, increase their player counts, increase their sales, and stuff like this just harms it. Why should I even try if you're going to let these people do whatever they want?
Yeah, especially like what they're unlocking, because you know it is PvE, but they're unlocking like special cosmetics, so then they get to like brag about like, hey, we got the shit that's impossible to get. Well, you got it through cheating, and a lot of people use like mods and stuff to do just basic stuff that doesn't harm other people or doesn't take advantage of the game. And now Square is basically going to find themselves in a spot where it's like, do we just ban, like, do we have to put like cheat engine in our PvE game just so people don't like break things?
Bungie's had to put cheat engines in theirs. Like they've like from the PvP standpoint. I don't even think Final Fantasy has PvP.
It does, but no one really plays it, and so it's never really been an issue. But now they're at a point where it's like, are we going to have to do a Valorant style? Put some malware on your computer to make sure you're not running anything in the background, and it's going to be interesting because like the director basically came out like multiple times and is like, please don't do this, this is very disappointing, we don't approve of this. And it's up to the community now to like react before Square's forced to go to an extreme.
Bungie Destiny has something on PC, a program that you have to download before you can launch the game. And if you have certain things on your computer, it won't let you launch the game.
Yeah. Basically, that's like a malware, like spyware.
Yeah.
And that's Valorant, I think, had like one of the most aggressive
On Guard, iGuard. I don't know what I don't remember what it's called.
It might have been Vanguard or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's now Final Fantasy, it's hit that popularity point still where now it's got to make some decisions.
Well, in some of the, as crazy as it sounds, there are people that have done things and abused, like using what I'm using right now, OBS. OBS is considered to be a third-party, form of an extension that when you're just trying to, again, circling all the way back to the beginning when Destiny 2 came out on PC, the content creation community was upset because they only wanted them to use like window capture.
Yeah.
Or like they didn't want them, they weren't letting them use like direct third-party capturing, like Elgato capturing, because again it was deemed as like a way that they were trying to like protect their game as much as they could, because if we allow the access that OBS needs or Elgato needs to get into the game, it opens up all this other stuff.
Well, and you say that, and I believe they use Discord screen share to get extra access to the visuals, and that's something that like seems harmless, but now Square is going to have to potentially look at that of like, are we going to allow our app to go to Discord for screen share?
But then if you turn off Discord, you have to, like, as an example, if you turn off Discord for like, I don't know, like a month, or if you turn off Discord in raid content, like you have to make sure that your in-game voice chat is on par, and most of them aren't.
And they have to find ways to go it unless the community steps up and is just like, okay, we'll Scout's honor, we won't do this anymore, or else they're gonna have to make some decisions. Speaking of decisions, Epic and Iron Galaxy have announced that Rumbleverse's servers are shutting down. So Rumbleverse came out about 6 months ago, give or take a month or two, and it will be shut down on February 28th. This it was a decision they made, obviously, due to player count and the numbers continuing to go down. They're in the middle of Season 2 right now. As a thank you to players, they'll just give everyone a battle pass, and then they're going to refund all purchases made in the game. So any purchase you made at any point will be refunded to you, and then come February 28th, the servers will be shut down. This sucks, Dave. I really like it.
You like this game.
I put a ton of hours into it the first 3 months it was out, and then the holidays happened, other games came out, and I haven't gone back to it. But yeah, this sucks. Just the idea that Epic Games helped fund this thing, so it's just you can keep this running. This does not.
Would you think this is Epic, or do you think this is Adam Boyes and his team going, hey, this is not, this is not what we were hoping for. We have other things, we have other stuff that we want to work on. This is not, where we want it to be. Or is it Epic going to them hey, this isn't worth our investment anymore?
I think it's a little bit of both in terms of Epic being hey, you're not hitting numbers, so we're probably going to stop feeding you money to keep this running, and Iron Galaxy probably being well, we could keep it up, but we also feel we need to keep content going for the game in order to keep it up, and it's just not worth making content. I don't understand why you can't just let the game be online without any sort of server, or not server, without any season pass stuff. But yeah, this sucks, and it shows you even if the game had a little
fragility of free to play content.
Yeah, no, it's exactly this shows you how unstable that market is, because Rumbleverse, I felt it wasn't off the charts popular.
I think Rumbleverse is doing better than Multiverse, if you had to ask me.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
In terms of conversation pieces, what I see talked about on social media. Again, maybe it's just the circles that I'm in, but I mean, I would think that WB would be more prone to pull a plug than before Epic would.
Well, and the thing with Multiverse is it at least had a gigantic launch that then plateaued and nosedived shortly after, as opposed to Rumbleverse, where I guess it just never caught enough fire, and then there just isn't that many people going. And it sucks because this is going to bring me back to Rumbleverse, and probably a lot of people that may have walked away from it. So they're going to see their numbers.
Yeah, because now they're gonna show up in the office and be okay, now you're there.
Yeah,
dicks.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it just sucks that and this is a online only game, so this will be shut down and it won't be playable.
So ever. A little bit of the conversation I saw around this, and you can probably speak to this. I don't think it was advertised well, right? It wasn't marketed well.
Not really. It was an Epic Game Store exclusive, so it was at least on the Epic Game Store of hey, you're loading up.
Oh, you
Fortnite.
Couldn't play this on console at all?
No, it was on console, but Epic Game Store exclusive on PC. So you would imagine they did advertise it well enough on Epic Game Store, but I guess people were just there for Fortnite and their free game, and I guess people don't play those free games that pop up on the Epic Game Store. They just redeem them. But console, I feel there wasn't a lot of marketing behind it, so I really thought PC was going to be the platform that holds it together, but turns out.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it happen before with Ubisoft's Battle Royale. I can't think of the name of it right now. It was a over-the-top Skyline shooter Battle Royale.
But I can't remember.
Yeah, it failed fast too. They shut that
Defiant?
down.
No.
No, Defiance isn't out yet.
Okay.
Defiance X, or Defiant X. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't forget. But yeah, that one Ubisoft pulled the plug super quick on that one. I felt.
Yeah.
Did it make 6 months, or did it only do 1 or 2 months? I feel the beta lasted longer than the game's release.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that it just shows even and we were saying at the time there Ubisoft shows has a record of building these games back up.
Yeah,
that and they stick with them, and they pulled the plug on that one, and now we're seeing this one pulled the plug on this.
Yeah.
So. Hyperscape.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then at least in this one, they're at least refunding. Hey, if you basically wasted any money.
Well, I feel again, we just talked about, Last of Us kind of set the bar for television, for video games being moved to television shows. Stadia kind of set the standard of hey, if you shut something down, you got to give people their money back.
Yep, can't make them feel like they wasted their money. Even though the idea that they're refunding season 1 stuff almost feels you don't have to refund season 1 stuff. You technically paid for that battle pass and got your content worth. But yeah, I'm glad they're doing that, and I'll probably load it up before February 28th. just to see if people are still playing. It's always interesting when the game's getting shut down, like that last like hour frenzy of just like the servers going off. Even though 9 times out of 10 it's just a boring like, you've been disconnected, thanks for playing. But every once in a while there's at least something funny or cool way to send it off. But yeah, all right, our next one. This has got to be the biggest head scratcher, and the number has to be wrong, but Amazon may have acquired Tomb Raider and its entire IP from Embracer Group. So Amazon was announced as the publisher for the next Tomb Raider back in December. So they are publishing, Amazon Games is publishing the next Tomb Raider game and working alongside Crystal Dynamics on the future of the franchise. It has now been revealed that a Tomb Raider TV series is in development with Amazon and its series creator behind the Amazon show Fleabag. So Amazon's doing a game, they're doing a TV show. But now a website, Fellowship Fans, which broke the news about Amazon acquiring Lord of the Rings, has basically revealed that Amazon has acquired Tomb Raider, the IP in its entirety, for what they're claiming to be $600 million. This would be Amazon's second biggest acquisition, behind them spending $1 billion for just the TV rights for Lord of the Rings. And for those that aren't aware, Embracer Group just acquired Tomb Raider, Crystal Dynamics, 50 other IPs, and a few other studios from Square Enix last year for $300 million. So that is a huge leap for them to report Tomb Raider pulled in $600 million.
If this flip turns out to be, and this is what this is a flip. If this flip turns out to be 100% valid, multiple people at Square Enix need to be terminated.
No, that's 100% was in my head. Like the head.
Like
of...
I don't really. I know I just talked about last week. Like people losing their jobs are terrible. But if you sold a company, if you're the finance dude at Square Enix, and you sold Crystal Dynamics along with Tomb Raider to Embracer,
along with 3 other studios and 50 IPs,
right? Just Crystal Dynamic and Tomb Raider, like just Crystal Dynamic and Tomb Raider to Embracer, and Embracer then goes and flips just Tomb Raider for double what you paid them for, double what they paid
did not
you.
Do their due diligence.
Yeah, like someone is in serious trouble, considering like how much I guess I should know this. Shame on me for knowing this, but how much did Sony buy Bungie for?
$3 billion was it, or one and a half, something like that.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
good for Tomb Raider or Embracer Group if this is true. I'm hoping I don't know why I'm hoping the number is wrong, but it just feels like if.
But if this is like, so wouldn't somebody have come out and said this already?
Well, that's the thing is like, we will get these numbers soon because we're in financial season where people have to disclose stuff. But yeah, this was reported, just this morning basically, that this is happening late last night. So we'll probably get confirmation, but it kind of lines up of like, okay, Amazon's publishing the next Tomb Raider game. The fuck? And now Amazon is like, hey, we're also doing a Tomb Raider show with our people to put on our streaming service. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is just like an educated guess of like, okay, Tomb Raider, or Amazon's doing everything else with Tomb Raider. They probably bought the IP. So I would love to know where the $600 million figure comes from, because to me that just can't be right. Like if this was true, like the Square Enix CEO would have announced his resignation.
Well, I guess the only thing I can think of, and this would have been reported too, but like who published like the Tomb Raider movies with like Angelina Jolie in them and stuff like that? Like who was that?
I believe it was, I want to say it was Lionsgate.
Did Crystal Dynamic own everything Tomb Raider top to bottom?
So Square Enix owned it all, and then they gave all that in a package to. But
the whole thing, like the television rights, the movie rights,
yes.
like everything. Yeah. Somebody's getting fired.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm like. If this was true, like, this news story, we're treating it as like a report, a rumor.
Either somebody's getting fired, or whoever is the finance dude at Embracer is getting a new job.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, he needs to go work for, like, I don't even know who he needs to work for. Like, somebody, like, go, I don't know. Amazon's already a big enough company. Or, no, I don't know. Like,
yeah, but like, even if the 600 million number is false, if it's even 1/3 to 2/3 of what Square paid coming back to Embracer, like I don't know, like it's just kind of baffling. And then what's being reported is Crystal Dynamics is not part of this deal, which is like the even more insane part of like,
yeah, Embracer like got 100% of their investment, 200% of their investment back.
Yeah,
and still owns Crystal Dynamics,
who are working for Microsoft right now, like pulling in like, extra money, just doing that work. Yeah, so this is a wild story. I'm sure we'll find out the truth. And we will find out the financial figures.
Crystal Dynamics is going to buy Ubisoft now with the money they got.
But like this, regardless of how much it may have cost Amazon to buy the rights, if it cost anywhere above $100 million, someone at Square is like sweating.
Yeah.
In terms of,
or someone at Amazon needs to be fired. One of the two. Like.
Yeah. But it just shows you also like, Square just wanted to be done with its Western studios. Like at this point, where like they took the first offer they got.
But still, couldn't you sell Crystal Dynamics to Amazon for $700 million or something? Like, at least get a video game studio with it. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna be very.
Who's Amazon giving this game to now, though? Like, who do they have that can make a Tomb Raider game?
Apparently, they're gonna license Crystal Dynamics. So, like, not only are they potentially paying Embracer.
They paid Embracer $600 million, and then they have to make a deal with Crystal Dynamics for X amount of millions of dollars to make the game that they already know how to make.
That's what's currently being reported right now. Because like I guess like
the video game industry is broken.
It's super broken if this ends up being true. And Embracer might have just won some Executive of the Year awards in terms of pulling a deal off. Because regardless of like what they sold it for, the fact that they were able to potentially flip the Tomb Raider IP so quickly for any amount of money just shows you that potentially not enough work was done on Square Enix's side.
This is like Moneyball for video games. I want Jason Schreier to write a book about just this.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see if this story gets like refuted by the time this episode drops on the podcast feeds, and we'll talk about it next week. But I'm sure we'll get some sort of confirmation.
Oh man,
relatively soon.
This is why we recorded on Wednesday. Michael's like, "This has got to go away, right?" No, I'm kidding.
Well, I put this in our show notes last night around midnight, and I'm like, "Okay, cool. We'll probably get more details tomorrow." But no one's denied it either. Like, I had a story in here about PlayStation, and PlayStation denied that story within hours. So I was expecting this story to be refuted right away, and it hasn't yet. But yeah, so if Embracer already flipped the Tomb Raider IP within like 6 months of acquiring it, like, I guess good on them. Bad on Square Enix and Amazon. Amazon's desperate to find like a TV show. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Rings didn't hit as well as they thought, but they're super invested in Lord of the Rings, so they're going to keep going with that. But apparently the Tomb Raider people are looking at The Last of Us like, can we replicate that for our franchise now? So we'll probably see. That is kind of funny, though. I just thought of it. Like, remember the Tomb Raider reboot came out, I think, around like a month after The Last of Us came out originally. And they were kind of trying to do the same thing, and it kind of hurt the first Tomb Raider. So here we are, and Tomb Raider TV series is looking at The Last of Us TV series like, can we replicate that? And,
yeah, for sure.
And we'll find out. All right, last news story. This is coming out of IGN. Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation are apparently skipping E3. So IGN and their sources are saying that the three big publishers will be skipping E3 proper. Xbox has already said they're going to have a presence in LA this summer, which most assume meant E3, but that also could mean Summer Game Fest, or more likely, them setting up shop across the street from E3.
In their Microsoft theater.
Yes, in their own theater. And then I guess the bigger surprise here is Nintendo, because Nintendo has been pretty loyal to E3, always having a huge show floor presence. and timing their Nintendo Direct and Nintendo Treehouse, like from
Correct, yeah.
E3. So this, a lot of people are saying this is like the death of E3, but we've done this dance before. Dave, is this going to kill E3, or is it already dead?
I mean, it's already at a lower tier now in general, just because of stuff. Is this going to kill E3? Like, no. What this tells me, like, okay, Sony not being there is not a huge surprise. EA not being there is not a huge surprise. Microsoft not being there, but being there, kind of par for what they've been doing. Nintendo is the feather in the cap, because they used to take at least 30%, 40% of one entire hall.
Mm-hmm.
But this also kind of tells me, like, this year might be a unique situation for Nintendo, that they probably don't have a massive game coming out this holiday. Like, a massive game. Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Tears of the Kingdom, comes out before E3. At that point in time, what is the point of them? Yeah, like, what is the point of them doing, like, a Zelda booth at E3 when the game is out and playable? I don't see. I think if we would have known about a new, like, 3D Mario game or something like that, like in development, like Odyssey 2 or whatever, I don't even know where we're at on that stuff. Like, we would have heard rumblings about it now, and so, like, that's just all this is telling me is that Nintendo doesn't have a marquee big game coming out in the next 6 to 8 months post E3. Probably because the Switch 2 is coming.
Yeah, so your Mario game is there.
So their Nintendo Direct would probably be dedicated to the Switch 2, and they're not going to let you touch it.
Yeah.
Like, so that means they're not going to be on the show floor, and maybe they'll be there the next year if it does well. Like, if it does at expectations without having these big publishers there, they'll come back.
Yeah, because, like, right now, Nintendo's biggest games coming out that aren't Zelda that are announced are Pikmin 4 and the Metroid Prime sequel that I believe,
or the trilogy, the remake trilogy,
and that's about it. And I love Metroid, but you can't build a whole E3 booth around.
No, everyone I've seen has either been Mario Kart, Mario Brothers, or Zelda.
Yeah, and like the Luigi's Mansion had a big presence, and Animal Crossing.
That still feels like Mario Brothers. To me. Like,
no, and that they don't really have anything lined up, and
I think they're seeing that their directs are doing great. Mm-hmm. Their shadow dropping does great. Their viewership is fantastic. Their sales aren't affected.
Yeah, and the Treehouse stuff is cool, but it has no need to be on the show floor.
Rightfully so. Sony Santa Monica, God of War, standing there pounding their chest, like, we sold 11 million copies of God of War Ragnarok. Fantastic number for an exclusive. Nintendo's like, hold my beer.
No, every time.
When Tears of the Kingdom comes out by Labor Day, it'll be more than 11 million.
Yeah, and then they'll double dip in like a year when Tears of the Kingdom comes out for Switch 2, and then as a launch game.
Selling 11 million copies of God of War Ragnarok is a huge kudos to you. And it's to a fantastic game that they made on 2 platforms, PS4 and PS5. And Tears of the Kingdom will destroy it in the same amount of time on 1 platform.
Yeah, because it's just no franchise tops Nintendo franchise at this current moment.
And I would argue it's getting to the point now where Zelda's becoming... Zelda's bigger than Mario.
I would disagree, but like sales wise, it's up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Zelda's bigger than Mario because it's smaller than Mario. If you know, it's less stuff. You're not getting Zelda Kart Racer. You're not getting
from a game.
You're not getting Link's Mansion.
From a game to game perspective.
Yeah.
I could totally see that because you're not oversaturated with that, but
yeah,
Mario's still Mario and stuff like.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Basically, to reiterate what you said, Microsoft not a shock because they're across the street. PlayStation not a shock because they've been done with it for years. I believe what they skipped all of 2019 and then like 2017 and 2018 they just kind of had like a carpet with like some kiosks and a stage. So PlayStation skipping out makes sense. Though I could see, like, Summer Game Fest is supposed to be in person, so I could see PlayStation having some sort of presence there. But that also won't mean, like, oh, here's a huge, cool booth. That just means, like, hey, Keighley will have a hotel and there'll be a room where Sony people are at. Because I believe that's how like Summer Game Fest kind of was last year.
They'll show somebody talking about Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, behind closed doors. And yeah, but I was on Twitter and I was basically saying like I attended E3 from 2013, 2014 to 2019, around that time frame, 6-7 years, and realistically, I only had access to PlayStation 1 year. I've never had access to Nintendo, and I've never had access to Xbox. And there was still a ton of shit for me to see. Yeah. So
I've been to one Xbox press conference.
Yeah, same. I've been to one.
Yeah, so one Xbox press conference. Never been to a Nintendo press conference. You know, like in terms of like Ubisoft stuff, and never went inside the Nintendo booth. And I think similar to you, really only had behind door access to Sony like
once
the last year that I went.
Yeah.
And that was mostly like for VR stuff, but yeah. So, and I still had a pretty full schedule of things to do and things to check out and things that I enjoyed. Will that be the same case for E3 this year? I have no idea.
But like, there's at least a path in terms of like stuff that
I saw a PR person that I follow talk about like this is going to be like a 10-day process now for them though.
Oh yeah, because they have to basically
Summer Game Fest is like Wednesday and Thursday or something, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before E3, and then Monday through Friday is E3, and there's no point in going home Saturday and Sunday, so they're going to be there like Wednesday to Friday, like Wednesday to the next Friday.
Pop-up events, depending on what PR person they are.
Yeah, and they'll be sure to fill in the stuff on the weekends with other stuff like Indie Game Fest or something like at what was it we went to at the hotel rooftop, the Mix.
Yeah, the Indie Mix. Epic ran like a block party like every year the last 2-3 years, like in the middle, in between basically where Microsoft was and where E3 was. It sounds like it's going to be a hell of an undertaking.
It honestly sounds like if it's going to be something that's going to be over 6 or 7 business days, that sounds like something I just would rather avoid.
Well, I think we talked about it, like if we were to like we applied for E3. And if we would get accepted, we probably would only go for the 2 business days that E3 are.
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't do.
And that would be dependent on if Ubisoft's doing a press conference or if Ubisoft has a hands-on session on a Sunday like they have before their press conferences. There's been a lot of factors into those things.
Yeah, but now I'm at
what we do or don't have access to.
Yeah, so. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I can skip all those auxiliary events and just give me the show and give me some appointments during those 2 days, and I'll just do the crazy person thing that we've done a couple times where we're just like, okay, we have every half hour blocked out for the entire day because me and Dave are crazy and didn't want breaks, and just like filled in our schedule. If we saw
I got a granola bar in my bag, I'll be all right.
Yeah, like me and Dave were like built for this stuff, like everyone's like talking about step counters, and then me and Dave are like, we haven't hit our number and it's the end of the day. Like,
yeah,
I walk around my store more than I walk around at E3, but like there's usually a lot of stuff, but now it's going to be like, okay, will Summer Game Fest pull people away from E3, like publishers and developers? And then also now the big 3 being there or not being there, those are anchors that usually, if you're an indie, you would want to have your booth there, hoping that maybe someone will come from Nintendo and PlayStation and then have some free time to check out your stuff. So without those like anchors there, like, is there going to be less incentive? And with this news story out, like, it'd be a hell of a good time for E3 to announce like some partnerships or of some kind, just to like stabilize.
Well, at this point in time, they need Embracer to come out and say we'll be there. That's who they need.
Yeah, Embracer's usually there, or at least arms of Embracer are usually there, but they need something. They probably need Epic Games to be like, hey, you guys can do your crazy booth, and find some stuff. But I wonder if this will hurt like the fan days, because usually most of the people that I know that were buying badges to get into E3,
I want to play Smash. I'll wait 6 hours to play Smash.
Exactly. They were going to the Nintendo booth, and the Nintendo booth was probably the most intricate booth there every year, and now that won't be there. And I don't know if they'll have enough G Fuel booths to entertain people, but there was a lot of G Fuel booths the last E3 we attended. So, that's all I have for news this week. Okay.
So, sadly, we do have a game that's delayed. It's Star Wars Jedi Survivor, delayed until April 28th. Was originally set for March 17th. And I was like, okay, like 30 days. It's inside of my 90-day window, so I'm irritated, but still, it's only 30 days. So I get it. And then a friend of mine goes, that's 5 days before Redfall. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, God. EA.
Yeah. And on top of the news of Jason Schreier today saying that another Respawn game was canceled.
A Titanfall single-player game was canceled.
A Titanfall single-player like game was canceled. As on heels of, it sounds like only 50-ish people were working on it, but it's just kind of sucking that this is supposed to be your golden, your Trojan horse, your golden ticket Respawn studio, and even they're kind of struggling.
Well, and they also I didn't put it in EA, canceled the Titanfall single player game at Respawn. They canceled Respawn's Apex Legend multiplayer game on mobile, and then they canceled Battlefield Mobile as well. So EA. Mm-hmm. It's the end of the fiscal year, so they're cutting projects right now to save money, and then they slip in Jedi Survivor is delayed as well. So that sucks. A lot of stories where I'm just like, that sucks. But yeah, Dave, were you a little nervous? Because did you pick this game or did I pick this game for our fantasy critic? I think you did.
I don't remember. I think I picked it. I don't think it's gonna get. I think this might affect the review a little bit. If a 30-day delay might reflect on the review a little bit, but I still think that this is something that I don't really think that they can really mess up, because the first one was set the foundation so well.
Yeah, but definitely, when I saw it was delayed, I was like, oh, how long was it delayed? I was almost expecting this to slip into the holidays.
Yeah,
but they're gonna drop it after.
All right, so what we're playing and watching. Obviously, I watched Last of Us on HBO. I watched football this weekend as well. And then I've been struggling to find anything that can kind of like hold my attention span. I legitimately think that I need some show recommendations of something that I could even possibly watch like by myself. Mm-hmm. Because typically it ends up like Angela and I kind of get invested in a show. Like, we've been enjoying the National Treasure show on Disney Plus. It's fine. Do I think it's a National Treasure show? No. Like, do I think that like does the name National Treasures do it any service? No. But the show itself is solid. It's just a kind of a good show, like drama comedy kind of thing. Like, it's just like a Disney show, and Disney makes solid content, like mid content. But I'm just kind of in this rut right now where I'm having a hard time finding anything that holds my attention for more than 15 minutes, other than like Last of Us, and that's one of those things where I kind of already know what's happening, so I kind of want to see what's going on. A ton of people have recommended like The Boys for me to watch.
I like The Boys. I just don't let Angela watch it.
No, she already won't.
Okay.
So that's why, like, it's something that would be like, I think Angela watched like the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes with me. She's like, nope.
Yeah, I don't even think you'll vibe with it.
I didn't really. I mean, I think I watched 3 or 4 episodes and then I stopped.
Watch Invincible on Amazon. It's a cartoon.
Okay.
But it's a superhero cartoon, but it's
okay.
Very ultra violent. Give that a shot. That could work.
I can't remember the name of it now, but we were watching a show that was like, we were actually watching it with Owen, I think. It was like a kid that was like I think they were leaning towards the kid had superpowers or something. I can't even remember the name of it. I abruptly stopped watching it, but it was like the mom was protecting him. They thought the dad had passed away, but the dad was like in a different dimension or something, and the kid was starting to get like powers. I'm terrible at that. So yeah, even Angela's like Mythic Quest. Like, we're not even enjoying the 3rd season of Mythic Quest.
I forgot.
Right
I was waiting for Ted Lasso to come back. Then I'll subscribe to Amazon and watch Lasso and Mythic Quest.
Yeah. So like, we were trying to watch some Mythic Quest the other day, and like, and again, it's the only thing that's really kind of holding our attention of like story that we want to see continuing is like the Nathan Fillion shows of like The Rookie on like the basic ABC, NBC sitcoms.
Basically, shows that you forget about after you watch them.
Yeah, but I'm like, oh, I want to see the next one because I want to see what happens, or you end up kind of like somewhat caring about the characters. But I'm having a hard time like having anything hold my attention at all on any of these streaming services. This is including like even just watching ESPN. It just hasn't been enough to hold my attention. So I did play Hi-Fi Rush the first hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm enjoying it. It's not as rhythmic as I thought it was going to be. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily yet. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily as punishing. But when you are on the rhythm, it's fun, and there's some cool things that are happening. I think it looks fantastic.
Well, that was a thing that like they emphasized during the stream. Like I've also been playing it about 3/4 of the way through the game. It's a relatively short game. It's like 7 hours.
Yeah.
And they were very upfront of like, hey, you get benefits from being on beat, but it's not the end all be all. Like you don't have to.
Do you put the beat meter? Did you put the beat meter at the bottom or no?
No. I haven't.
Okay.
Though there are some sections where it's just like, no, you have to be on the beat for this. But it's like QuickTime events, basically. Of like you have to do this QuickTime event exactly on the beat. But no, I'm just playing on normal difficulty. I haven't needed to use the meter at the end. But man,
yeah.
Talk about a fucking beautiful surprise of a game in terms of just Shadow Drop, and it's just like, hey, do you like Jet Set Radio? Do you like Sunset Overdrive? Do you like No More Heroes? Here is all of that into one very stylish game.
So let me ask you a question that I've been thinking about this week, because as some people have been talking, because it's kind of brought up the Bethesda conversation and Microsoft buying a publisher again. Does this game exist without the Microsoft acquisition?
No, I don't think so. I think the Microsoft acquisition may have let them have the chance to dick around.
Is this what we were talking about, though? Is this like Phil Spencer like going, hey, what's in your notebook? Like, show me what's in your notebook. Like, I want to see it.
Yeah, but exactly. And Bethesda very much was going down that path of like, we just make Fallout and we make Elder Scrolls, which is why we got Fallout 76. I don't think Fallout 76 exists if Microsoft owned them beforehand. It's just look at what they've been able to do with Obsidian in terms of like Pentiment. Who the fuck would have published Pentiment?
Yeah.
You know?
But that's the same thing. Like, this is like, I feel like whether you like him or don't like him, this is Microsoft or Phil going to the studio and seeing that, taking me around the studio, show me the studio, show me what's going on. What's that guy over in the corner doing? Oh, he's just messing with something. And I want to see that.
And that's how I believe they talked about this one, to where the head of Tango Gameworks saw the project they were working on and was like, I like this. Keep going with this. And it's a great way to use studios. Like, they just shipped Ghostwire Tokyo. Wasn't great, but guess what? It's going to be like 3-4 years before their next big game. So if they can get something out in between those, why not? And then it helps Microsoft out, because Hi-Fi was like the talk of the town for a couple days last week.
48 hours, I think it's fantastic, and I think this is exactly what that Microsoft needs to do with these studios that they're buying, and the Microsoft just needs to do more of it and more often.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, like, we get stuff like this from Ninja Theory, because, like, remember, Hellblade only existed because Ninja Theory was like, we're done doing big games, we're going to do small experiences. And then they did the opposite of when they were acquired. They're like, Hellblade is now going to be a gigantic fucking game, and it's just like, no, make small games. And we get this, which is coming from a studio that is known for one genre, and we're getting something completely different from them. And if you want to talk, I think we talked about it last week, but like, when you saw the trailer for the game, you're like, that looks like a game MJC is going to be into. And it totally is. And like, it's a very stylish game. And this makes, like, my Game Pass expires in March. This is a reason for me to keep Game Pass. Not this game specifically, because I'll be done with it probably tonight.
Potential
but
of what's next.
Yeah. This type of thing will keep me subscribed and looking for deals, because this was a surprise. I was kind of in like a game funk as well, where it's been a while since I played something new. This came out of nowhere, and for like 4 or 5 nights in a row, I was playing one mission a night, and they take anywhere from like 40 to 60 minutes, or I just exposed how terrible I am at the game. And
that's about as long as it took me to get through the first intro boss too.
So like, I've been doing like that, and I've been looking forward to playing it like for 7 days in a row, basically, of just like, oh, I'm playing this and I'm enjoying it. And this is a great calculated risk for them because they knew they had a winner, and they also, which we talked about last week, had to find the best way to release this. If they just, if they announced this game last week and said this game's out in August, we probably we would talk about it, but we wouldn't. I don't think everyone would be talking about it, but because they built up the excitement of like download this today.
And I feel like there's a little bit of a plan because now, like a week later, you start getting the MLB The Show 23 news is going to be on Game Pass again, and so they're kind of like starting to stack the momentum as well. So now you've got, January was Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know what's February. March is MLB. April is Minecraft, and then May is Redfall, and then June, July, August should be Starfield. September, October should be Forza. Does Hellblade fall in there somewhere eventually? Does another Surprise fall in there somewhere? Like another Pentagon, another Hi-Fi Rush? Like, if those things are happening, then the conversation around Microsoft struggling, I feel like starts to go away when people are like, those things are fantastic. Who cares where you play them on?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
What about you?
So it's mostly been a Hi-Fi Rush. Just to reiterate, that game is kind of amazing. It's fresh of breath air, and it's just been.
Did you just say fresh of breath air?
Yeah, I did, and as I said it, that's why I paused. I paused during that, but it's been a fantastic game. I highly recommend it. It's just been really fun to get through it every single night. Dave's dead now. This is what happens, Dave. I'm tired. I only took a 20-minute nap. And it's just been something I look forward to playing, and I'm probably going to play it like multiple times. Like, I'm already like planning of like, I'm probably going to go through this game on like a higher difficulty. I did experiment with like some of the accessibility stuff just to see like what they had, and like there's a ton of stuff to where it's just like there was one point where I was playing it and it was like 2 a.m. and I was not coordinated enough to do a lot of the stuff, so I was like, let me see what the accessibility options are, and there's like a ton of options to get like a tired me through the night because I wanted to finish the entire level in one night. In terms of just like, you could just turn all the prompts into X. You don't have to worry about other prompts, and then you can, obviously put that meter out if you want it as well, and then you can always change difficulty on the fly. But yeah, no, I like it, and then the fact that it gives you a grade at the end of every mission, like per area.
Yeah, but then it tells you like overall you got like an A-. Great job, but you really suck at being on the beat.
Yeah, no, but it's funny though. It doesn't punish you that much because I've had a couple times where it's just like, hey, your timing was a C, but you still get an A because you nailed everything else. The only thing I would say that it's kind of a bummer on the game is like, especially early on, I feel like there's not enough combat. You kind of just go into like this. Yeah,
but I'm kind of okay with that, like traversal, exploring, like figuring out where to go next, finding more gears. But like the breaking crates, like that kind of stuff is fun for me.
It was really fun, and then like the fact that when it clicks in your head of like, oh, it's not just the combat that's on beat, it's everything. So when you jump on beat, you get the little like flash and sound when that happens, and just interacting with everything else on beat is just really cool.
It's a gem. Like, it's a gem.
No, totally.
It's definitely a gem of the game.
I don't know why, but for whatever reason. Oh yeah, he even walks on the beat.
Taps his foot. He's just when he's standing still. Like
like he's always on beat. But just part of me was kind of bummed out because like as I'm getting like achievements, I was still like, kind of wish this was on PlayStation because I care about trophies more than achievements. Because I was thinking of like, oh, maybe I'll just get all the achievements in this game because it's like that sort of game for me. And usually on PlayStation, when I enjoy a game, I'm like, I might go for the platinum. And being on Xbox, I'm like, I don't give a shit about achievements. But I still might go through it multiple times.
I think you can turn them into points, and eventually you get enough points, and you can like have it pay for something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've earned a $5 Dunkin' gift card. With my points, so I might end up going through the game multiple times. But this is one of those games that like, was it Tango GameWorks? I kind of don't want to see what their next game is unless it's something in this universe.
Yeah.
Which probably would be really a relief for the studio, because there's a lot of pressure for them to like put on like a scary
I would
game.
love to, I would love to see if this showed any kind of spike in Game Pass subscriptions. Like, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love to see if this game charts. You know, like, I don't even like I haven't even looked it up. Like, how much is it to buy this? Do we know?
I don't know offhand. We could probably look that up. But also, I would love to know, and I don't think Microsoft would reveal these numbers. I want to know how many like dormant Game Pass subscribers like come back online, you know, to play a game when it shadow drops like this. Just because there has to be a fair amount of people that haven't interacted with their like Game Pass subscription on PC or Xbox that suddenly out of nowhere like.
It's a $29 game,
which I think is reasonable for the experience that it is.
Yeah. The deluxe edition apparently is $39.
Yeah. But I don't know. I would just be curious to see how many people that like forgot they had Game Pass or haven't interacted with their Xbox or PC suddenly are like, oh shit, let me go download that and like turn their Xbox back on. But I don't think Microsoft would ever reveal the numbers of like, hey, people that forgot that they're subscribed to our service started to use our service again.
Well, I don't think like sitting there saying you have an uptick in user sign-ins. Like, I don't think that that's a terrible thing. User user
phrasing
logins
will be very key for that type of thing.
I'm sure we'll get something in the next week that more than 9 million players have loaded it or something.
They have to be hoping that it passes the High on Life numbers, you know, because High on Life is a lot of controversial shit now. But like, I'm sure they would love to kind of bury that game if they could, because they were advertising the shit out of it, and now they can't. But so Hi-Fi Rush is pretty much all I've been doing. I've just been playing that, watching The Last of Us. We're gonna record like a mid-season spoiler cast for The Last of Us, so I'm probably gonna rewatch those episodes.
Yeah, after episode 4.
Yeah. So after this
right?
week.
Is that, yeah, we agreed upon that. Yeah. So after episode 4. So the tentative plan will be Patreon, but it'll be episodes 1 through 4. Are we releasing this as well, or just Patreon? Just Patreon. Yeah.
Patreon, and
so
then we'll release it all on a regular feed after the season's
right. Yeah. So episodes 1 through 4, we'll record something. Episode 4 through 8, we'll record something, and then we're hoping that episode 9 is worth its own recording as well as a wrap up.
Yeah.
Which I feel like it will be. And then, to Michael's point, then a little bit after that, we will just release all 3 of those segments into one episode.
Yeah, and maybe take the week off that week and just have The Last of Us content, pending big news whenever that time.
We'll take our spring break.
Yeah, take a spring break. But yeah, no, that was pretty much it. And I'm excited, and it got me to be like, you know what? Let me try Pentiment, because I haven't messed with it. I downloaded it, but I just never like played it. So that's next on my queue. Just to.
Yeah, I want to do as Dust Falls still. I think I want to play that with Ange actually. So.
Yeah, something about that art still throws me off, and I can't. But it looks interesting.
All right. So Spotlight. So Spotlight right this week will just be future content. I have recorded something with 2 Destiny clanmates that are part of the DDG Destiny 2 clan that will be posted shortly once Angela edits it, and she will probably quickly edit it because it's about 2 hours long, and I don't think she wants to listen to the whole thing.
No.
So if you are a fan of Destiny, please give that a listen, give us some feedback. We might do something else before Lightfall comes out, because like On Par, they released another big blog post this week for weapon stuff. So, and they released a weapons trailer this week. So I am, as I said in the intro to that episode, I'm very cognizant of not everybody, including Michael, enjoys Destiny or enjoys hearing about Destiny. So I did a segment separately like I've done in the past. So if you enjoy Destiny, please consider listening to that episode. If you don't, and you send me feedback about this episode being about Destiny, I cannot promise my answer will be respectful. Because it will be clearly marked Destiny.
Yeah.
So if you just like hearing my voice and hearing other clanmates for 2 hours, like, you're more than welcome to listen to this. But do not give me crap about talking too much about Destiny. And Michael, you have something hitting the feed soon too as well, right?
Yeah, recorded a very random thing, as I do when I do recordings. Me and Chris Penwell, who was on our episode for Enslaved Odyssey to the West, I did 2 years ago, which I was surprised that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So PlayStation All-Stars 10th year anniversary hit like in November.
Yeah.
So we decided to record, like, I think it was like an hour and a half podcast where we just kind of built our dream roster for like a sequel that never will be. So that will probably hit sometime next week. We just want to space everything out so like nothing gets like cannibalized by the next.
My Destiny thing might win just because it's a little bit more timely content.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I'm like waiting for dates to drop, and then I'm going to decide when to drop the PlayStation All-Stars thing.
The cool thing too with when we do stuff like this is that it's not, the Destiny stuff's a little time dependent, but if you're eventually going to play Lightfall or play Lightfall after it comes out, you can still listen to it. This conversation between Michael and Chris is not. It lives in its own. It lives in its own tube.
Yeah.
So if you're caught up, or you're getting ready to go on a road trip, or you got to like do a project that you're doing, like you're painting your basement or painting your house. I don't know. Like this is ideal thing to. Here's 90 minutes of straight content that you don't have. Like, oh, I want to listen Thursday because I want to hear
content.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to listen on Thursday because I want to hear what they talked about with the delay of Star Wars or whatever. Like that stuff, I understand and I respect that pressure. And I think Michael and I have a pretty big commitment this year to trying to do more stuff that lives in its own little independent capsules.
Yeah, which you know, like the Last of Us stuff that will drop, you might consider that time sensitive, but you can listen to that at any point once you finish up the show. So we'll definitely be dropping some randomness because I still have some other ideas of like random.
Yeah,
content.
and please, like we've asked before, like. If you want Michael to talk to somebody that you think that you can tag them on Twitter and that there might be a mutual interest, or likewise for myself, if there's somebody you guys, you know, like I'm not afraid to shoot my shot and message somebody or tweet at somebody and ask them to do something. So if you guys think you have an idea, like we'll be more than happy to do that, to attempt it, as well as I've kind of discovered with, again, like I've been talking about with Discord, like it's not really hard for me to as long as you have something that sounds somewhat decent, like you're not trying to record off of like your speakerphone on your phone, I can myself, my equipment and my wife's ability to edit, we can make things sound better than most of the podcasts I listen to sometimes.
Yeah, even some like well-established podcasts, sometimes the audio I'll be like, damn, okay, we're not bad.
Yeah, so we can make some things work, and we can, you know, do some cool stuff. So please, you know, make those suggestions, post them in Facebook, post them in Discord, post them to the Twitter account, to Michael's account, to my account. Like, let us know what you guys want to see. Tag other creators, tag other people, and you know, some of those people will be more than willing to do that. So I would love to see what you guys would like us to do. So with that in mind, the main account for Twitter is at Digital Days Pod. I totally just typed in today on Twitter at Digital Days Gaming and didn't even let it tag. Like, I was like, what? I didn't get a notification for that. Michael's account is at the first MJC. Mine is at Good Dave Hunt. Our Facebook group and our Discord server are linked in the show notes. Our Patreon is in the show notes as well. Patreon.com/DigitalDaysGaming, where as you just heard Michael reference, that there is a fantasy football style gaming draft that we did. That is the most recent piece of content on our bonus content episode on a $7 tier, as well as if you subscribe into that $7 tier, you get all of the previous bonus content that we've released. So there's a ton of content there as well. So please consider doing that. But I understand that finances aren't always great, and some people are like $7, that's too much. Like, okay, send me feedback on Patreon of what you would like to see, or what prices you like to see, and we can always look at it. It's always an evolving thing. But if you're interested in that content, please consider listening and subscribing to that tier. As well as the $5 tier gets you this show, the weekly show, 24 hours early most of the time. And there's a $1 tip jar in there, and then $3 private Discord access that we're still kind of working some kinks out on right now. Discord access on Patreon seems to be a little fractured at the moment, so that's an in-progress thing that we're working on. That's it for me. You got anything else, bud?
No. Just we'll have some extra content dropping over the next week, and then hopefully we'll have some gaming news to talk about. There's a lot this week, so we'll see what next week holds.
All right, awesome. All right, everyone. I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.